but I feel bad because Joe was really good to me in soccer when we launched Breaking Points, right? And I do appreciate that. I am grateful for that. But bottom line is, it's a rich guy in a
What's going on, you guys? Today we have Krystal Ball destroying Joe Rogan. Krystal Ball, she's calling out Joe Rogan as a shill for the establishment and provides her criticism. Let's watch.
When I look back at the people that inspired me really deeply to get into independent media, and, obviously Gavin and I were never going to get hired by MSNBC. Look at us. But, the people who were like,
They'd be smart.
maybe I could get in this was obviously we were big secular talk fans, as we mentioned, but I spent so much time my senior year of high school, early on in college, humping jobs listening to the Joe Rogan Experience. I mean, a lot. I mean, I probably listened to that man talk more than my own father. Okay, it's serious, the level of appeal that he had to people at that time. This was probably 2015, 2016 when I was a real head, all the way to 2018, right?
Wow.
And I would say, in a way that I can't explain, it hurts me so badly to see what happens to this guy, because I always believed deep down that he was one of the good ones. That he was this guy that even if he was rough around the edges, even if he reminded me a lot of some of the dads that I grew up around, where it was like they didn't understand shit, like they don't understand trans people, but they're like, who cares, bro? Let them live. Like, that's what I always envisioned for Joe. And then he got the Spotify contract, and it's $100 million. And I don't know if you'd attribute it to that. I don't know if you would attribute it to the social isolation in Austin, Texas. I don't know if you would attribute it to him being a lot more effective of a con man than I ever realized. And here he is now. He sees an opportunity and he wants to be the biggest and he wants to be relevant and he doesn't want to fall off. And so he goes for it. But he's completely abandoned and betrayed everything that I feel like once made him special. And he's just become a mouthpiece for bigots. He defended Elon sig-hailing. He had Mel fucking Gibson on his podcast to say that climate change wasn't real, and the big scam was green energy companies that were trying to scam our kids so they could make money off of it. This is a man I know knows better, because I was inspired by him when he had Shane Smith on his podcast all those years ago to be like, dude, this is an insanely important issue we have to talk about. And Joe was like, wow, dude, we got to do something about this. This is crazy. And I was like, we have to do something about this. This is crazy. So what is your analysis of the unmaking of Joe Rogan? And how do you put it in perspective in your own mind as somebody who gave him the benefit of the doubt when a lot of people were criticizing him?
Yeah. And, I still feel like torn, not really.
So right here we have the Vanguard. They're calling out Joe Rogan. They're saying that, he used to really speak on topics and he used to have people that would talk about maybe more important things. And now as he's growing bigger, he may, start to seem like a sellout. And I believe that's what they're getting across.
Torn at this point, but I feel bad because Joe was really good to me in soccer when we launched Breaking Points, right? And I do appreciate that. I am grateful for that. But bottom line is, it's a rich guy in a bubble who goes off of like vibes versus any sort of facts or ideology. So, he's, I think, quite emblematic actually of the Bernie to Trump pipeline, where it was like, shifted right from backing Bernie Sanders to now, based on the like vibes, I think he feels like it's like cool and punk rock. He even said this on his show, to support Trump and all this parade of horribles around him. And is now, his podcast is like the #1 platform where oligarchs go on to like launder their reputations and try to enlist MAGA in some like, pro-rich class war by telling them it's really about some cultural, like, oh, they're debanking conservatives. That's why we need to get rid of the CFPB. That's what his podcast has become. And it's terrible. Like, it's really sad to see. It's bad for the country. And I think it was interesting to me. Probably the most revealing thing I saw is, I don't know if you guys covered this. I'm sure you saw it though. Is he recently was like, oh, I'm not really a Republican or a Democrat. I think they all have some good
bullshit.
ideas. It's like, dude, you baked that cake is baked now. You can't go endorse Trump, have him on your podcast, not push back, have all of his sycophants on your podcast, launder their reputations, go schmooze with them at the inauguration, and then still come back, oh, I'm an independent guy. No, you're not. Like, that ship has sailed. This is who you are now. You are an establishment Republican in league with the most powerful people on the planet. Like, all your conspiracy theorizing about how the powerful want to do this, those are your guys. Like, those are the guys that you're giving a platform to and helping in their plans of extraction and exploitation and world domination. Like, you're in league with them. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know the explanation for like how he ends up in this place, But I think, like I said, it's just like a rich guy in a bubble whose obvious media consumption habits are horrific, will just is incredibly gullible, will believe anything that happens to fit into his worldview and not check it before.
And yeah, this is happening because we have someone who, mildly tells the truth. We have Trump who tells his side of the story, his truth, which, has a level of truth that we all see. He calls out, or he started calling out the corruption as far as, oh, we're going to drain the swamps, we're going to do this and that. And now we're starting to see that it is particularly just Trump's truth, that it has nothing to do with anyone else, but it has to do, it's someone who is fallible, who has, a background that doesn't really serve the people. He isn't really that relatable at all, but he has a way of being able to sell to you. He has a way of being able to say, hey, I get that you're frustrated with the way that things have been going on. I get that you're frustrated with how, fake these politicians are. I'm not fake at all. Talking about Trump. And it goes to show that, yeah, he may not be fake, but he has real hatred. He has real hatred for people, whether he knows it or not. And Joe Rogan has fallen into that trap of just saying, hey, he's telling a truth. And he gets hypnotized by a half truth of hatred, And Krystal Ball is calling out Joe Rogan for that, saying that you really haven't done actual research. Like, I think it's important to study Joe Rogan to see why he fell into this trap, why he fell into this idea of, going from Bernie to Trump. And maybe then we can deduce like what's going on, what the actual appeal of Trump is. But yeah, Krystal Ball is just calling him out, saying, look, man, you can probably do a little bit more research, And yeah, let's keep on going.
Rolls out of his mouth whatsoever. And now happens to be incredibly powerful and influential, where this is very, very damaging thing to do.
Yeah, I think for me, the first time that it really clicked with me that it was over for Joe Rogan and that he really doesn't mean much of anything that he says these days is actually when he interviewed Donald Trump and basically didn't bring up the vaccine or COVID at all, didn't push back on Trump's handling of that situation at all. Because again, it wasn't that long ago that Joe Rogan decided to turn his entire show into the let's bitch about the vaccine hour. Let's complain about the response to COVID, the lockdowns, Dr. Fauci, lab leak, etc. Which again is all valid to talk about. I actually defended his right to do it. I said it was crazy that anyone on the left advocated for his censorship in that moment. I said, hey, this is a dramatic thing that's happening in society. People have the right to talk about it. People have the right to, talk about conspiratorial shit if they want to. Let's not advocate for censorship, right? But I really thought that Joe Rogan took that seriously. I really thought that it was something that kind of broke his brain, that, completely made him change the way he thought about politics. Again, the response to COVID, the lack of freedom, the, lockdowns, the vaccine mandates, et cetera, et cetera. But then he has Donald Trump on his podcast for a 3-hour-long conversation. Donald Trump is the guy who was president when that happened. Donald Trump is the guy who instituted the lockdowns, who did Operation Warp Speed, did the mandates. Joe Biden is the guy who said COVID is over. And Joe Rogan doesn't even bring it up once. He doesn't even bring it up once to Trump's face. He doesn't say, hey, if there's another pandemic, are you going to do this again? Are you going to have a different plan? No, it's just complete crickets, not even the ability to ask a single tough question, even about the thing that, like I said, he spent 2 or 3 years harping on endlessly. I'm sure everyone remembers the ivermectin. Maybe I should sue CNN because they said I took horse dewormer or some shit like that. So what was your reaction to that? Do you think that Joe ever actually really cared about the COVID stuff as much as he pretended to?
My read is a little different. I think he does care about it, but I think the vibes are that that's a Democrat liberal thing and not a right-wing Trump thing. So even though the facts are exactly as you laid out, he didn't feel.
And yeah, the Vanguard makes a great point. They're saying that, he cared about this vaccine so much. He cared about everything that was going on. And yeah, we're going to forget that Trump, quote unquote, from a Republican standpoint, right? Trump was the one that bent the knee. Trump was the one that started to instill these programs, if we're following, the conspiracy, the theory like that. And that's the one who did it. That's a great point from the Vanguard, that he is the one who straight up implemented all these things that these right-wing conspiracy people didn't believe in the first place. But they never hated Trump. That's it goes to show that they're very selective with what they don't like about Trump and what they do like. They almost don't even acknowledge what they don't like about Trump, which is very off-putting.
Feel like that was a thing to challenge Trump on because it's right-wing coded. So that's more of my read of that situation. And, he's always had this shtick of, oh, I'm just a comedian. Like, you can't take me too serious. And it's like, okay, that's all well and good until you're interviewing the fucking president of the United States. And then guess what? You do have some responsibility to like do some research and plan some pushbacks and have some difficult questions. Like, yes, that is incumbent upon you if you're going to accept that opportunity to interview the, candidate for the president of the United States and the former president of the United States. So I do think he believes it. I just think that he gets captured by like what's right-wing coded.
So there we have it, you guys. We have Krystal Ball tearing into Joe Rogan. He's not really thinking about the bigger picture. He's thinking about, what is going to make me look good? What is going to make me, look great to the right-wing audience, to the audience that tunes in to watch me. He's very, very self-aware of what brings the money in. But, that he may start to get too involved with that and start to lose touch with his own self, his own values, as we can see. So that's Krystal Ball, breaking down Joe Rogan's sort of, entire self. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's another day in the progressive way.